if you're dealing with a toxic, like as they say, toxic relationship, people love that like language today, but it's dealing with a very unhealthy relationship. Maybe someone has like borderline personality disorder and they're not someone you feel you can trust, or, you know, maybe there's someone who's, you know, constantly will use things against you, or I don't know what it is, right? What do you do in a family situation? Is it okay? Because there's a lot of millennials and Gen Zers, especially Gen Zers, like who talk about this, but just not talking to Gen Xers too. They just don't talk to their family members. Like there's people, and I don't understand that because that's not the way my family is or I'm wired. And I feel that there must always be a way towards resolution of some kind, even if it's like a patient forbearance with some boundaries in place. But what's your take on that? Is there a case where you totally cut someone off?
I think
is that?
Yeah, I think there may be cases of very severe trauma where that is maybe the only solution or the best solution. I also, at the same time, think those cases are quite rare. And it's probably easy to assume if you're in a lot of pain or if you've just had one difficulty after another with a family member who's hurt you, to think that this is the only way to deal with it. And I would say in most of those circumstances, maybe for a limited period of time, just to get some respite and start reconstituting yourself and start developing some resilience, but always with the hope of reestablishing and reengaging and holding open the possibility of, to some extent, reconciling the relationship. The relationship may need to be limited in really important ways. But
does the relationship ever include writing a tell-all book about the relationship? No.
No, it shouldn't. And
no boundary that you set with a dysfunctional family would ever include you going out and publicly declaring how bad that family member is.
That's right.
Yeah.
Because, well, first of all, and this is
like, isn't that breaking a rule, like a fundamental rule of even boundaries?
It is. It's you know, airing your family's dirty laundry publicly is not good behavior. And people often think that boundaries are what I do in order to control other people, in order to, I'm going to set a boundary with my dad in order to make him stop yelling at me,
right?
For example. No, boundaries are not a limit on other people's behavior because you can't control other people's behavior. Boundaries are a limit on my behavior. So, for example, say I have a father who yells and screams at me when I talk to him or when certain subjects come up. I can tell him, Dad, please don't yell and scream at me. And I can try to encourage him to stop engaging in that behavior. But if he doesn't, and I say, I need to set some boundaries. Right. Those boundaries are constraints on my own behavior. So that's me coming to the point where I say, okay, I can't control what my dad does. He may still yell and scream, but I can control what I do when that behavior starts. So I can stand up and walk out of the room if my dad starts yelling and screaming. If I'm on the phone, I can say, Dad, I need to hang up now, and hang up the phone. That's a limit on my behavior. I'm not going to subject myself to that verbally abusive behavior. I'm going to remove myself from the situation. But there's also a humble recognition in doing that I can't control what Dad does. I can only control what I do, right?